Summer is here, and along with it, all the vacations, parties, snacks, and extra cocktails. And I know it can be really tough to stick to a healthy routine. That's why I want to gift you my Healthy Summer Survival Guide, packed with tips to enjoy lots of summer indulgences and have fun, yet still nourish your body with everything you need to look and feel amazing. I don't want you to get to the end of the season feeling bloated and full of regret. And I want to show you how you can enjoy all the deliciousness of summer without the guilt. Grab my free Healthy Summer Survival Guide through the link in the show notes, or you can get it at sarahhaaswellness.com. Welcome to Boss Body, the podcast where successful women learn how to lose weight and get healthy in a way they can live forever. If you're successful in so many areas of your life, but can't seem to give yourself the same care and compassion you show everyone else, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Sarah Haas, women's weight loss and body love coach, and I'm here to help you create the light, joyful, energetic life you deserve. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Sarah Haas, and you're listening to the Boss Body Podcast. And I am feeling so happy, so grateful, and so joyful that you're here today with me because I have a special guest, Lisa McCourt. And Lisa is the host of the Do Joy podcast. And she's also founder of the online Joy School at lisamccourt.com. And she's the author of over 40 books all about joy and love. And her books, she has sold over 9 million copies total. She's earned 7 publishing industry awards and has been featured on Lifetime TV, CNN, and PBS. And we're also going to talk about her latest book called Free Your Joy, 12 Keys to Sustainable Happiness. And that is why I'm so joyful that you all are here with me today. And Lisa, I'm so happy to have you because joy, who doesn't want to talk about joy, right?
For sure. And it is a joy to be with you, Sarah, always.
Thank you so, so much. So I definitely want to dive in a minute to your book and your message and explain what we mean when I say Joy School, because I'm sure that's got some interest peaked. But first, can you just tell us a little bit about you, your history? You're writing all this about joy. So what makes you such an expert on joy, and how did you find this within yourself?
What told you that this could be actually a career, you crazy lady? Yeah.
Yeah, you've literally made a career out of helping people find joy, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Right. Well, I mean, I think for most of us in these healing professions, and I know you know what I'm talking about there, it's born of contrast. It's when you've had a contrast experience in your life and you've been blessed with the opportunity to learn ways around it, learn ways through it, learn some really significant, to me, they're just like right there out in the open secrets that nobody knows, and you've seen how powerful that is, and you look around and you see how rare people living in joy, how rare that actually is. And it doesn't have to be. There's just like nothing more meaningful that you can do with your time, with your energy, than to, for me, it felt like joining a team. It was teachers and books that really turned around my life and my early adulthood, when I started poking around in spirituality and got to learn from some amazing masters and just learn some amazing tools, and just the lack of awareness of how easy it can be. How we have this idea that we've had this, trauma, and most of us have had some sort of trauma, and that it's just in there and we have to live with it, and it's hard to deal with it, and it's hard to work around it. And just I wanted to join the team of way showers that help people to see that it doesn't have to be that way. It's wrong to assume that we just have to, suck it up and plow through life.
Yeah, so you like everyone has experienced adversity, challenges, trauma, and a lot of times we can get stuck in that. And I always say, it's important not to honor what you've been through. I don't mean sweep it under the rug, stuff it down, that kind of thing. But your message is you can find joy in the midst of whatever you've gone through because you've done it. And I love how you say you feel like you're part of the team because I've done like what you have. I've searched, I've read, I've watched, I've participated and found all these different guides and gurus and helpers and teachers all over the world and taken bits and pieces of all of their teachings and just soaked them up to elevate who I am and also to elevate what I can do in helping other people.
Yeah. I think that it's like a turning point in so many people's journeys, even within my Joy School, the ones who have been there for several years reach a point where they're looking at how can I contribute to this? How can I, that it's a natural progression as you're elevating your own vibration and you're evolving in your own spiritual journey to want to facilitate that for others.
Oh, yes. Once you feel the joy, you want to share the joy. So tell us, what do you mean by Joy School? For people who have not ever heard of Joy School, which it is wildly popular and it's been around for a long time, and you have guided a lot of people through the Joy School process, but tell us what that is.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time in different names, different guises. It hasn't always been, exactly what it is today, but it's mostly online groups today. I do have live events in South Florida, and we had a live retreat in California last year, and sometimes the live events are in other parts of the country. But for the most part, it's online groups. And we come together to support one another in applying contemporary spirituality to our lives in order to elevate our personal vibration, which elevates just everything in your life, whatever it is that you're, looking to bump up out there. It's always a matter of vibration. We're vibrational creatures swimming through a sea of vibration 24/7. So it's contemporary spirituality, but that's really rooted in ancient traditions, a lot of Eastern tradition. I teach from, Vedic culture and Buddhism and Taoism and a lot of those, even though we apply very contemporary applications and we make use of modern science that's, backing all of this up with recent discoveries in quantum physics. And, we incorporate all that, but the foundational pieces of what we use are really ancient.
Like you said, they've been there in plain sight for a long time, but it's a matter of there's so much out there, and especially with online now, you can find anything about anything, and it can be overwhelming. And so you have sort of put it together into this beautiful package through the books that you've written and also through your Joy School so that people have an entry point and sort of a guide. So what does it mean, joy? What does finding joy mean? I
Yeah.
know I used to be really confused about that because I thought joy and happiness were sort of synonymous, but you say that's not quite the case.
I mean, everybody gets to have their own definitions of these things, right? But in Joy School, the positioning is that they are very different things. Happiness is a perfectly legitimate, beautiful human emotion that we're all aspiring to. There's nothing wrong with that. We should have generous dollops of happiness within every day of our lives. But it wouldn't be realistic to expect that we would always hang out in a state of happiness. That's not what the human experience is, right? We're here to experience the whole spectrum, the whole gamut. And most of us have been conditioned to want to cling to happiness, find happiness, pull happiness in while pushing away everything else. And joy is the opposite of that. Joy is finding the beauty and the meaning in every emotion available to us and not resisting any of it and leaning into our sadness, leaning into our grief when that's appropriate and recognizing that grief can be the most beautiful heart opening portal to compassion for self and others and understanding and it can grow people and evolve people and anger can be so powerfully right when it's helping us to establish our boundaries or be in defense and support of someone else who needs our, our strength when they don't have it. So every emotion can have joy in it when we learn to stop pushing against and resisting and just really being the compassionate witness to our life as it unfolds.
Yeah, I love how you put that because it's true. Sometimes some feelings get a bad rap while other ones are good and they're labeled bad. So anger or grief is labeled as a bad feeling because it doesn't feel great in the moment, but it's necessary. It's part of the human experience. And if we deny ourselves any of our emotions or our feelings, we're not going to be balanced. We're not going to be whole. And for me, I've always sort of looked at it as happiness along with the others that we mentioned, anger, grief, whatever, are more temporary feelings or ways of being in a moment, and joy is the way that you are. It's more of a like taking a step out and looking in at life and all its beautiful complexities and the bittersweetness. I have a son who is graduating high school this week. He's my baby. And so I'll be going into empty nest soon. And I'm having such bittersweet moments every single day. His last track meet, his awards ceremony, Saturday's graduation, he's going to be giving the welcoming speech at graduation. So, as a mom, I am so proud. I'm so excited for him. I am so happy that he's in such a great place and he's going on to college in the fall. And I'm also sad and grieving having my kids at home with me, missing the babies that they used to be. So joy is just saying, you know what? It's all amazing and beautiful. And I went through a breast cancer experience. I can't really say that I enjoyed it in in any way, but I do have joy over that being part of my journey that was meant to happen here on earth and how it has changed me profoundly on the other side. So for me, joy is no matter what happens, I know everything is going to be okay. I know that there's a higher power, there is a universe, there is a whatever you God, whatever you want to call it, looking out for me. And all of this is unfolding, and some of it is painful, some of it is ecstatic, some of it, induces all different emotions. But overall, no matter what, it's beautiful.
Yeah, those are great examples and beautifully articulated. That's exactly it. We go on the premise in Joy School that all of us are joy. Joy is what we are made of. Joy, love, peace. That is our soul essence. I use terminology I borrowed from Eckhart Tolle that we all are vertical self and horizontal self. And our horizontal self, of course, is the one that we pay attention to all the time. Our name, our roles in this space, our occupation, our family placement. That's not the truest, deepest essence of who we are. We're more vertical self than we are horizontal self. And our vertical self is joy and love and peace. And we don't have to go find it out there. We just have to identify and release the blocks that are keeping us from experiencing that as our reality.
Yeah, so I want you to explain that a little more because you would think that as humans we would just be able to find this joy. We would be able to tap into this joy. But why do we need a school? Why do we need books? You know what I mean? Is it not our natural state? I know for me it was not. I went through some dark years with anxiety, with depression, with self-doubt, with not being able to live to my potential because I just had too much heaviness on me, holding me back.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
It starts when we're very young for most of us, and we never like to throw parents under the bus. Parents are always doing the best they can with what they have, but where we are in the evolution of humanity, we're still primarily a fear driven, fear based culture. And even parents with the absolute best of intentions impart a lot of that onto their children. They think that's protecting them and keeping them safe. And they impart a lot of self-doubt because they're always wanting to make their children better. Well, there are actually two kinds of wounding that happens. It usually goes one way or the other. Either there's intrusive wounding where the child, something is happening that shouldn't be happening. The child's and the emotions are too big for the child to process when these things are happening, when any type of like emotional abuse or physical abuse is happening. And so we shove those down, we stuff them, we keep them like within our energy field. These emotions are stored because they didn't get the opportunity to flow freely through us like they would naturally do. The other type of wounding is neglect, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't housed and fed and given everything you need for your survival. But for many humans on the planet today, attunement is a skill that we haven't quite mastered. And that's what a child really needs to optimally develop in accordance with the joy and natural peace and self-worth that we come in with. So when a child isn't attuned to, when their parents are always trying to make them be something they're not or see them in a different way, and they don't have that attunement, that also results in a lot of stuffing and a lot of feeling not good enough, feeling like you have to earn love in this world, you have to earn respect, earn your place in this world. So between those two different kinds of ways that wounding can happen, it's super, super common for us to have the natural joy that we come here as blocked off energetically, right? We have this chi, prana, life force energy flowing through every one of us. That's what separates our bodies from a corpse, right? We have this life force energy, and it just gets blocked by these early formed beliefs. We call them bucket beliefs in Joy School, because whatever we decide at a very early age, when we're learning our definitions of things, whatever we absorb as the meaning of love, the meaning of power, our place in the world, whatever definitions we absorb really early on, our human minds are programmed to go through life looking for evidence to put in that bucket. And, we quote Joe Dispenza, who says there are 400 billion bits of information swirling around us at any given moment. Our little human minds can really only absorb and pull in and process about 50 bits of information at a time. What decides what comes through and gets created as our reality, basically, which is what it means to absorb the information around you. That's what's determining what you perceive as reality. That's always going to be determined by those earliest formed definitions, because we're always feeding those buckets until we take control of the dynamic like we do in Joy School and start opening that keyhole, right? Because all of us are just seeing the world through a keyhole. None of our keyholes are lined up the same. And we want to really expand that viewpoint to see more of what's actually around us.
Yeah, I definitely see that, not just in myself, but in a lot of the women I work with who have these wounds from childhood. We all do. And it could, like you said, it could be some kind of very overt abuse or whatever, or it could just be always feeling like you didn't quite get there. Like the bar was just a little higher. If you could have just, gotten another A or won this race, or, we feel like we have to externally earn people loving us and being worthy and being enough. We think we have to achieve and succeed. And then that manifests later in life in thinking you have to earn X number of dollars per year. Otherwise, you're not successful, or you have to look a certain way or be a certain way that will serve others and not you. And all of that, you can never get there. So you never get that joy. You never get that fix that you're looking for. You want that feeling. You want that amazing, wonderful feeling of I'm enough. I'm wonderful. I'm amazing. And we say, oh, we're all beautiful. We're all amazing in our own way. Everybody has their own unique gifts, but in our minds, we're thinking, yeah, sure, that's just something that you say to make people feel better. Really, I have to do XYZ in my career or whatever it is in order to be enough. And I know that's something, I'm very open about sharing that I have it's a work in progress. I won't say I'm 100% over it. It's a life's journey, but I see it. I see it all the time. And so it's tamping down our natural ability to receive and feel joy. And I think a lot of times we're told to put on a happy face or kind of fake it till you make it. Think positive, and you go to these positive thinking seminars or read books or whatever, and it's not really about just like thinking positive, is it?
No, I mean we have affirmation practice in Joy School, but affirmations so often are doing more harm than they're doing good. When you pick that pie in the sky affirmation and you say it all the time, and when it's in contrast to what you deeply believe, it's just reopening that wound every time you say it. And that's how so many people have been trained to do it. Even vision boards, if you make this beautiful vision board with all these things that you just do not believe are actually possible for you, you're actually doing more harm to your vibratory state every time you see that vision board, because it's just reminding you of the contrast, even if you kind of tricked your conscious mind into saying you believe these things. So yeah, affirmations can be beautifully effective and positive when they're chosen very carefully and they are lighting up, when they're opening your energy, when they're finding a spot that you can believe and just opening that and bringing more energy and flow to that, they can be beautiful tools. But a lot of people are using them detrimentally.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out, because I know sometimes you can put something, you can have a mantra or whatever that is the complete opposite to what you feel. And if you keep repeating that mantra and in your brain you're thinking that's the complete opposite of me, then yeah, you're that's just further reinforcing
It takes you out of
whatever it is.
coherence. Right. We do a lot with
Yeah.
energetic coherence in Joy School. In order to manifest or plant seeds in the quantum or whatever you want to call it, there needs to be like full energetic coherence. So we do a lot of examination where we're out of alignment there. And that's a perfect example of being out of coherence.
Well, can you give us some tips, some of the tools that you teach in Joy School and that you teach in this latest book? Because some of us don't know where to start. We're
Mhm.
we're like, who do we follow? Who do we read? Like, who's right? What's gonna help us? What's gonna actually hurt us? So what are just some of your best, here's a great place to start?
Yeah. I think that for each of us individually, personally, the very, very, very best teacher is our own life. Okay. Because life wants to support you. All that stuff that we've stored in there, every time there's been too big a feeling that we haven't been able to process, that's all that's in the way of our joy. That's all that's in the way of whatever we perceive to be success or our own evolving, whatever we want to step into next. All that's in the way is what we've stored. And life is always showing us what we've stored. So, some people call it their triggers, the activation of their pain body, whatever is bumping up against you in your day, that you recognize that whoosh of energy, that like, like that resistance to it. When you feel a closure, right? We get really practiced in feeling our energy body in Joy School, right? So our energy is always either expanding or closing. Our heart's always opening or closing or shutting down. Whenever anything shuts you down, it's a beautiful, beautiful gift. It's an opportunity for you to see what you're storing. And you don't have to have the specific memory of what put it in there, or you don't even have to have a lot of words around it. You just need to have a recognition that this kind of thing happening causes this sort of thing to go on inside me. And always the answer, whatever it is we have a skill that requires a little practice in front of all this that I'll just talk about a little bit. I addressed it earlier, the horizontal and vertical self. So we become very aware of our vertical nature, right? Our source self, our soul self. And we can actually, when we can remind ourselves to fall back into identification with the vertical self. Every person walking the planet has one. Nobody's walking around without a soul out there. When we can line with that, in those moments that our horizontal self is closing down, we can offer love to the situation. We can bring love to the thought that's causing that is usually a false thought. It's come through our filter, which is very unreliable. So it's not really a good measure of what's objectively going on out there. We're usually having some bullshit thoughts going through our head. So we do a catch and release on the thought. We catch the thought and we think, okay, it's probably a bullshit thought. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. I'm going to release the thought, but the feeling is real. Feelings are actual biochemical cocktails that are happening in our bodies. Chemicals are being released. And so the feeling deserves all the compassion and love that we can bring to the feeling, knowing that this isn't the real me. This is a program that got installed somewhere along the way. Our brains are just programs regurgitating what we've learned from our society. I know you do a lot with, women and body image, and that's, very much a cultural indoctrination that every woman has had. So the thought, I'm going to catch and release. The feeling, you want to relax into it. And that starts with relaxing your body. We do some Donna Eden energy tools. You can pull your brow apart if you feel like your brow furrowed, loosen up your jaw, let your shoulders drop, breathe into your soft belly, letting your belly relax. When we relax our body, it sends a message to the parasympathetic nervous system that we're safe. And that safety is what allows whatever that feeling is to come up for release. Because typically, when we feel that trigger, when we feel that thing out there bump against us, the tendency is to close. And that just shoves it down there and adds to it. And we spend our lives accumulating energy around these samskaras, to use the Vedic term, these old wounds. When we can relax instead and offer ourselves love and compassion for this wound, it can bubble up and release. Sometimes that'll just look like suddenly you notice the thing that was bothering you doesn't bother you as much. Or sometimes you'll actually feel the energy, what felt like frustration or anger will turn into something more childlike and innocent, like just like a sadness or a woundedness when you give it that space. And sometimes there's tears or chills or something to indicate that, okay, I'm now giving the attunement and opportunity for processing to this old wound so that it can be released. And we have to do it again and again and again because these wounds are kind of solid and in there for most of us. But the more we do it, the more we lessen the magnet that's going to bring in those triggering situations. Either they just stop happening or they stop affecting us. The more we're able to process and release these old things that we've stored.
I love that. I love that because we all, as soon as you said, you'll feel it, when it's tight, when you're closing up, that's your signal from your body, your inner knowing. This is a trigger for me. This is an area that needs some work. And a lot of us either stuff it down. A lot of my clients stuff it down with food. They instead of experiencing the emotion, they push it down and then it's still going to be there. It's still going to be living there. It's still going to be affecting your life and in all of your patterns. And the other thing is fighting against it, you know, resisting it or denying it, using some, it's almost like clashing into it. And instead, you're saying, open up, calm your body and do something that makes you feel like you're opening up to it because then that's accepting and allowing. And it doesn't mean, oh, hey, I'm fine. If you know what it's about, that doesn't mean, oh, that was not a big deal. I shouldn't care about it. It's just these emotions are now in me because of this situation. This happened. There's nothing I can do about it now. But me carrying around these feelings that are blocking my ability to have joy is not serving me. And so, how can I open it up? And then the piece about compassion and love, that is golden because that's the thing that we didn't get. That is what we needed and we weren't getting. And just saying, just send love to that emotion. So instead of judging, instead of pushing it down, instead of fighting against it or denying it, whatever, you acknowledge, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And I love you for that. And it's part of it. You should feel that way. It's completely natural. It's completely acceptable. And it's almost like filling yourself up with that golden, delicious, soothing, loving that we didn't get that we needed. And so, like you said, once you can release that, you're changing your whole vibration. You're changing the energy of you.
And
And
sometimes
it's
you can't do it right in the thick of the moment, right? We say that sometimes, like you can't take yourself through all that, but then you just make a mental note and you go back and revisit it when you can. And you really just like you re-trigger yourself with the memory, the thought. You say, what was so was bothering me so much today? Oh yeah, that. And then just do it. Just pour that love in there. Because yeah, we were taught not only that we want to avoid our negative emotions because they feel bad, but a lot of us were shamed for our negative emotions. I mean, even just don't cry, the most basic thing that we hear as kids is making us feel like there's something shameful in feeling and expressing the fullness of our negative feelings.
Yeah, and for women expressing anger, that's not attractive, or saying no and setting boundaries. People aren't going to like you if you don't do what they want you to do. So, all of those things. And I want to go back to what you said about identifying those moments of your day, because I think that's something that a lot of people miss because we're not in tune with ourselves. We're not paying attention. We're stressed. We're busy. We're working, or we just have never put that into practice. That's just not been on our radar. We just go put one foot in front of the other and do life. So just like everything else, awareness is that first step. And then once I started becoming aware, and when I see women I work with, a lot of times the little signal is wanting to eat when you're not hungry, or it could be something around finances, like every time I have to pay my bill, or every time I, see something on TV, or every time a bill comes in the mail, or whatever. Or it could be like a relationship thing, a sore spot with with your partner, or your romantic relationship, or family, or kids, or whatever it is. But you really have to slow down, and you really have to listen to yourself and notice how you're feeling in your body throughout the day to even start with this first step.
And to really treat it as a new skill that you're learning too, right? We start with scales when we're learning the piano. So you don't jump right to the biggest trauma point that you have. Like if you're upset about the weather or the traffic or, some little inconvenience in your day, the Starbucks line is too long. You practice there. You practice with the small stuff, and then you get better and better at catching like, oh, I notice I'm triggered. I notice I'm triggered. And then you can work up to, because sometimes we have those wounds that just feel too deep and scary to give that space to, and you want to kind of build the muscle first with things that aren't as hard to look at.
Yeah, and in your book and in your teachings, you refer to joy set points. So is that our goal, is to get to that joy set point?
Yeah, so that's just a baseline that everybody is walking around with, right? So we all know that we have days that our joy feels up and days that our joy feels down, but it's always going to kind of even out at basically whatever we learned and absorbed early on is the amount of happiness and joy that we should have in life. So we absorb this from our parents very often, sometimes from our religion or a culture, cultural beliefs. But whatever we think is the amount of joy that we deserve and should have on a day-to-day basis, we're going to level off there, even though we'll have it bumped up and down. So by releasing these blocks and understanding more our true nature, by learning to fall back into our vertical self, where it's just constant bliss and happiness bubbling up all the time, by building that skill, we elevate the joy set point. So we're still going to have good days and bad days, but the level of the bad days starts looking like what the good days used to look like, because we've just raised the bar for our baseline to go through life.
I love that. I love that. And even the idea that you can elevate your joy set point. Some of us have never done that. And you think, well, this is just my personality. This is just my predisposition, whatever. This is me. This is how I feel. And, maybe there's medication or maybe there's, other things, but that's pretty much me. And you're saying, no, we have a capacity for so much more joy than what we are allowing ourselves. So I love that, and I want to thank you so much. So I understand that anyone listening, if they want to know a little more or take their journey a little bit further, you have a free gift, which is Discover Your Joy Set Point. It's kind of a little mini online workshop, and people can go to lisamccourt.com to get that. And I'm also going to put the link in all of the show notes. And also Lisa's book, Free Your Joy, the 12 Keys to Sustainable Happiness. You can get those on Amazon or all the places. I want to thank you, Lisa, for being here. Let's all have more joy. And thank you for your beautiful shining light and helping us to understand that it's not only available to us, it's our birthright. It is what we are meant to have here on earth. And so thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for the beautiful gift that you bring to your clients as well, and all of us who listen to the podcast.
All right. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And until next time, I'll see you then. Thank you so much for being here. I'm honored that you've chosen to spend your time with me and allowed me to be part of your journey. If you like what you're hearing, remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it with anyone you think would benefit. I'll see you soon.